Hello everyone, I'm Professor Toybox. I've got Donald Duck with me, and today I'm continuing the build for my Duckburg toy box. I'm going to work on the city portion of the toy box today. Once again, here are some screenshots of Duckburg from the 1980s DuckTales cartoon. The layout of my toy box is based on this shot, which shows Scrooge's mansion on one side of Duckburg and the money bin on the other, with the city in between. When you look at some of the close-up shots of the city, you can see that the streets are made of brown cobblestone, lined with concrete sidewalks. The buildings have a cartoonish look, and there are a wide variety of different building types. Last time, I put down most of the terrain here in the toy box, and added the road that goes around it. And I also built Kill Motor Hill over here, where the money bin stands, and added the lighthouse out there on the point. When I put down the terrain, I used the toy box terrain texture for the blocks that are going to be sitting underneath the city, and this most closely matches the cobblestone streets from the screenshots that you saw. So now we're ready to start building the city, and I'm going to start off on the waterfront here, along the edge of the water, and we're going to put down a street that runs along the perimeter of this edge of the toy box, and we'll put down a long line of these. And this side of the toy box terrain blocks looks pretty grungy, and so I want to put a nice finishing edge on this. So we'll come down to the terrain drawer, and we're going to put down some blocks that match the Metroville cityscape texture that we're using for the grass. And I think that'll give us a nice grassy edge to this, and also a much prettier front edge here along this end of the toy box, so that we're over there, when we're over there on that side of the toy box, it looks a lot better when we're looking over in this direction. Yeah, that looks a lot nicer. And then with the sidewalk going along here, that will look pretty good. Okay, so we're going to have a road going down that way. And then I'd also like this sidewalk to run along the side of the road here. And this is as close as I can go over this direction, because as soon as I start going this way, we bump into that curved track. So we're going to start here, and we're going to do 7 of these. 4, 5, 6, 7, and a curved piece. And if we've done this right, this should be 3 of these wide, and it is. And each of these sidewalk pieces is 2 by 2, 2 blocks wide by 2 blocks long. And so this is 6 blocks wide for the street, which is a good length, good width for the street, I believe. And then we'll come along here and start filling in the road this way. Now for this end of the toy box, I want to be able to see the money bin, and so we're going to use some shorter buildings over here. And for that, I'm going to use the Main Street buildings. And this kind of looks like a scenic waterfront along here this way. And so we can put down some nice little cafe-looking blocks. And then a narrower one over here. And I'm using kind of the same building block for that in order to save on memory a little bit. I'm trying to save as much memory as I can, because I want to be able to put down as much story as I can, as many games and activities as possible. And so I'm going to actually forego a lot of detail that I would normally like to put in here, including traffic lights and fire hydrants and a lot of things like that, in order to save room for the actual games. And it had reset that drawer on me, but that's one of the reasons why I put down the sidewalk first, so it makes it easier to get back to it. Otherwise, you have to scroll through about half of that drawer, the decorations drawer. And then this will turn and go around the corner. Like so. So now we have the beginnings of our street. And to kind of mix things up a little bit, we'll come up to our buildings and building sets. Not building sets, but the buildings drawer. And we're going to put in one of these really large buildings. And what this is going to do for us is it kind of creates a little parking lot area back over here, which is kind of neat, I think. And now that we know the width of that, we can run the sidewalk right up to that. And you can either use this straight piece, or it's probably going to look a little bit better if it's a nice curved piece going in there. And then for the alleyway, I'm going to make this 4 blocks wide, so that's 2, and that's another 2. So that should come about like that. Which means that the buildings on this side of the street, this side of the alley, will line up just like that. And that comes right up against the grass, which is kind of nice, and right up against the edge of that road. So that's good. Oops, a little too far. And once again, it reset the drawer on me. That's another reason I started with the sidewalk here. And then we've got a corner. And then I'm going to run this thing over as far as it'll let me go. And that's about it. So that's as far as I can take that sidewalk. Okay, and I want to leave room here for a street. And so as we come up to this, I'm going to come over to the terrain blocks. We're actually going to come down here and pick that block up, drop it back down, and that gets me over here. So this block is 6 blocks wide, which is the perfect width of the street. So now this should be about the position of that sidewalk on the other side. And I guess I'll leave that block there. I might pick it up and move it around a little bit as I'm building along. That would be useful. And then we'll continue the sidewalk here in both directions. So for this block, this city block, we're going to put down one of these and a tall red brick building. And over on this side, I want to put down another one of these, but I'm going to drop this back about 1 block. So about like that. That's about half the width of that sidewalk. And let's see, is that the one I want to use? Yeah, I think I like that one. Doesn't really matter. I could use that one or I could use that one, but I think that's the one I want. And then to kind of make this a little bit symmetrical, we're going to stick another one of those buildings on here. And then we're going to put this larger brick building right in here, like this. So we're going to butt it up against that building and against that one. And yeah, that is the right building there. I want it in the middle because it's the same height as this large brick building that I'm using. And I want 2 of these And one of those. And then as we come over here, we'll put down a couple of buildings here. And that kind of starts that street. And I kind of like doing that rather than adding the buildings in along here, because that adds a little bit of visual interest. So now we come around this corner, and it's not a long straight stretch. There's a little bit of a turn in here. And I think that's good. You don't want this to be too plain. All right, so we have this building over here, and as we're going around this block, let's go ahead and keep filling that in. So I'm going to put down one of these just to mix things up a little bit. Don't want to use all the same building style. And on the opposite side of the road, we got to leave room for the sidewalk. And I think that will do. Let's come back down to those sidewalk pieces and just make sure this fits. Yep. Perfect. And then we'll add in a few more buildings along this side of the street. So we'll put down a brown brick, a couple of red brick buildings. Kind of makes it look like it's a long red brick building. And there. So now we've got a bit of a little corridor there as we come off of that. Over on this side, we'll put down another one of these. And I want to tuck it right in here, like that. That fits perfectly in there. And then we'll go ahead and fill in the sidewalk around the block here, because this is now going to determine where everything else goes for the next blocks. And we're at the end of this corner. Oops. Got ahead of myself. There we go. And we're just filling in the perimeter of the block here. And you'll notice some of these buildings don't come up right to the sidewalk. That's okay. We have other things we can fill in there, which will add a little bit of visual interest. Now you can see we've got the street coming together here, which is really good. And I don't know that I'll fill all of this in because you get the idea. One thing though is, what do you do when you come to a corner like this? And if you put this down, do you put it that way or do you put it this way? Because the next piece over is going to be coming this direction. And that's really up to you. It doesn't really matter, I don't think, which way you go. I don't think players are going to be too upset one way or the other. But that would run all the way down the length of that, and I'll do that offline. And then you're basically going to do the same thing along here. Oops. And you have the same problem when you come to this corner. And again, you can kind of choose to put it around this direction. And you get the idea. And if we've done it all correctly, in doing this, the road should be 6 blocks wide everywhere. So it's 6 blocks wide there. Coming over here, it's 6 blocks wide. And over here, once again, 6 blocks wide. So it's a good consistent width for the road everywhere, which is good. And we'll fill in this a little bit later. So let me go ahead and pick up this block again now that we're working over here. And I want this road to be 6 blocks wide also. Just like that. And once again, we can only go one width here because now we're running into the curve on the road. And now that we have the width of that street, we can go ahead and delete that block. All right, and then come back up to the Incredibles buildings. And for here, for this side of the road, we are going to start with this red brick building. We want to start on this corner, like that. And again, it's not too critical which ones you use, but I'm trying to mix it up a little bit. And put a little bit wider one in here, like this. Because we have the room for it back over here. And we got room just enough for one more building. We'll put another red one there. And for the sidewalk over here, we'll run it up to the grass. And then run that all the way down along there. And that forms that street. And I could run a sidewalk back over a portion of this, but I think the grass is fine. Kind of gives it a little bit different look, and the fact that the buildings come right up to the edge of the brick there, I think that looks kind of nice. All right, so the last little piece here is on this side of the toy box. And what we're going to do is extend this street over this way. And I think that's where I want to put that. Trying to find my screenshot here that I took. Yeah, this one's going to be a little bit wider. So actually, that's not where I want that. This one here will line up with that side of the road. This one I do not want to do that. And the reason is when we start laying out this other side of the street here for Scrooge's mansion, the street isn't going to line up precisely with that road. It's going to be off to the side a little bit. So we can't put that other building here. So I think I'm going to wait on this last building over on this corner until we get Scrooge's mansion and the hill in over there. That'll tell us where we need to put that building. But for this sidewalk, we can come and run this right on up to here, or we can even run it right up to the edge there. And I'm actually going to leave it right there, I think. But you'd fill in the sidewalk all the way down, and the sidewalk over here all the way down, and you get the idea. Now, we have all this empty space over here. We need to fill that with something. And what we're going to do here is come down to the plants drawer. And I'm going to use this Fantasy Terrain Strip 2. And we're going to drop one of these right in here. And the texture for this is actually going to come from the Tomorrowland power disc, because I think that's the best thing that looks there. It's got a nice square edge that's going to fill this in completely. And so I'm going to put that power disc down. And I do not want to switch my entire world to this new theme. All I wanted to do with that disc was unlock the texture for this thing, the style. So as we style this, we're going to come over to the Tomorrowland Terrain Strip 2. I'm going to set that to be my theme. And that fills in that area nicely. And this is actually perfectly wide enough to fit 3 of those. So that fills in that gap pretty good. And over here, I'm going to fill in this with some grass. So I'm going to drop a terrain block here. And we're going to set this to be the grass theme. I'll set that to be my theme. And I'm going to leave a gap there for a sidewalk that will run up to the entrance for that building. And it'd be nice to have a little bit of texture here, and I could use this smaller block, but I'm going to do something else on that corner. So for this, I could leave it that brown, but I think that looks a little bit tacky because that looks like the street. And so to make this look more like a sidewalk, I'm going to drop one of these down and change the texture again. We're going to change it to this concrete style, which matches the sidewalk there pretty good. We're going to do that. And then around the corner, I'm going to drop down another one of these on this side. And I'm going to leave that open because it looks, you could fill that in, but those look kind of like doors. So I'm going to leave that open like that. And then for the corner, we'll put down this little corner piece. And I'm going to theme this to be the Metroville style. Like that. And since we've got a walkway going up to the building, it'd be nice to have a front there on the building. And this looks kind of like a nice fancy entrance. So we'll put that there like that. And while we're here, we can put down some fancy entrances on this side as well. So there's a number of possibilities here. We could put down 3 of these, or we can split this in 2 and do it that way, which looks a little less, uses a little less memory. And over on this side, put one of these in, like that, which looks kind of nice. And this will split those windows, so I'm going to offset this. And put that one in like that. And you could go nuts and put fronts on all of these buildings, but you really don't need to. You're just giving the idea. And this little building entrance is starting to look kind of nice. We'll finish it off with a few plants. So we'll come back down to the plants drawer, and we're going to scroll over here to the Metroville plants. And that's all the way past these topiaries, if I remember right. There we go. Kind of tuck this in the corner as best we can. Looks like it's bumping into that building there. It's either on that side or it's on the other. There we go. That's about as close as we can get it, I think. Trying to turn those so that they're a little bit varied. So they don't look like the exact same tree. So now we got kind of a nice little entrance there and some much needed greenery in the middle of the city. That's a good thing. And I'm going to drop another tree over here just to kind of fill this in a little bit. So maybe about like so. All right, I like how this is coming together. One more thing, we got this corner sitting out here, which looks a little bizarre. So it would be nice to have some kind of a building on that. And one of the things that I saw in the DuckTales cartoon was a hamburger joint. And here's a picture of that. So I want to go ahead and see if I can build that. And so we're going to put down some of these house pieces over here. And I'm just looking at my screenshot that I did for this. That's a garage, a square one. We're going to put that down like so, and then put the longer one in like this, with the window facing out. And I'm going to go ahead and customize this to use this orange brick. There it goes. Took a moment. And we'll do the same thing for this one. Set that to be the theme. And now we can put up the roof piece. Like that. Put a doorway on the front for the entrance. And over under building sets group 2, to kind of tell the player what this is, we got this nice hamburger sign. Stick that right up on the top, and that kind of looks like what we saw in the DuckTales screenshot. And that kind of gives a purpose for that corner being there with the stone. This looks like it would be parking for the restaurant, and it's surrounded by grass. So I like that. That looks pretty good. And then we need something to get to the top of these buildings. And if we scroll over a little bit further, we'll find the black drain pipes for the city. So we'll put those down over here. That gets us up to the top of that building. This one gets us to the top of that, which we'll need for the Black Pete quest, where the weasels are up here with Gyro's stolen invention. There we go. The city's starting to come together. One more thing we should probably do, and we'll wrap this up. I'm going to come out over here. We need a sidewalk on this side of the street, I think. That puts a nice border here in front of the money bin. And Uncle Scrooge is really fond of his privacy. So we're going to put up a fence. And I'd like a nice chain link fence, but unfortunately we don't have that. So we would just run this fence along the side here and run this all the way down till we get to this point. Come across and take it as far as we can here till we run into this hill over here. Now I can't go any further. Well, I could, I guess, but that's good enough. So that gives us a nice edge. And again, you'd fill that fence in all the way along there, and I'll do that offline. But that puts a nice border there that Scrooge would want people to keep out. And it keeps the player from just driving up there. I want them to be able to come in the driveway here and come up the hill to the money bin. But with that, I think the city is pretty much done. Just fill in the sidewalks that are missing. I think it turned out pretty well. It looks a lot like the screenshots of Duckburg that we saw at the start of the video, or at least as close as we can make it in Disney Infinity. Next time, we'll work on Scrooge's mansion over on the other side. Until then, I want to thank you for watching, and I want to thank all of my subscribers for your comments and support. If you're not a subscriber yet, all you have to do is click the follow button on my blog or my photo in the lower right corner of this video. That way you won't miss a single episode. As a reminder, I've also got floor plans and logic diagrams on my blog that will help you build this toy box yourself so you can play it on your own console or PC. For now, Donald and I are signing off from Duckburg, and we'll see you next time.